This is finding angles using trigonometry, and as always with trig, we need a right angle triangle to start with. So the process is very similar to finding a side. First step is to label hypotenuse, opposite and adjacent relative to the angle we're asked to find. Then we identify which of H, O and A are the two sides we're given, and we use our SOHCAHTOA triads to determine whether it's sin, cos or tan. Then we cover up the S, the C and the T, and that will tell us the relationship between those two sides. However, and this is where it differs from finding a side, for an angle we need to use the inverse of sine, cos or tan. And that's indicated by the little -1. The shift key gives it to us. So let's see how that works. We take our relationship for sine, which is opposite divided by hypotenuse, and we rearrange that in this form. And when the sign goes from the left to the right hand side of the equation, we do the inverse operation. So sin on one side becomes inverse sin on the other. It's exactly the same for cos and tan. Cos and tan on one side become inverse cos and tan on the other side, and that allows us to find the value of the angle. So just have a quick look at how we might do that on a calculator. So we have a shift button, and I go shift sin, and it indicates with the little -1. Then if I put some values into it, it will calculate an angle. So this is 41.81 degrees. So let's see how it works in practice. Here we have two sides, 74 and 65, and we're asked to find angle X. No problem, we label as always H and O. We look at SOHCAHTOA and we see that sin is a relationship between O and H, and we want the size of the angle. So we cover up the trig function, which tells us that sin is O divided by H. We want the size of the angle, so we use shift sin, and putting that in our calculator tells us that that angle is 61.45 degrees. One more time through. Exactly the same process as finding sides, except we use inverse sine, cos and tan. So two sides, 16 and 78. We do what we always do, which is to label the two sides first. This time we have the adjacent and the hypotenuse, and that is the cos relationship, CAH. So C is A divided by H. Stick it into the calculator, inverse cos of the A, 7.8, over the H, 16, and we get angle A is 16.82 degrees. It's basically all there is to it. TOA is opposite divided by adjacent, but otherwise identical, and we can stick in our calculator the division sign rather than the fraction sign if we prefer, just personal preference or the style of calculator you have. And the inverse tan comes from using the shift button instead of just the ordinary button. Right, and here's our procedure. Label, as we always do. Identify which sides we have, as we always do. Rock on out SOHCAHTOA and find which relationship we need for those two sides, and then we use inverse sine, cos and tangent to find an angle, whereas we use ordinary sine, cos and tan to find a side.